Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desi and Monty, and I'm glad to say that I am tonight joined so far by the former pilot of Vitaria Carrier, Ralph Malf. Good evening, Ralph.
How you doing? You all right?
Fine, thanks very much for joining. And he's joined by Izzy. You can't see it, folks, on the video, but I basically got a close-up of the half a screen is Ralph's pint glass, and the other half is Izzy, his dog, right up against the screen. Sadly, Izzy's now left us, and I'm looking once again at Ralph's face. And I'm also joined currently by the entrepreneur from across the water, as has been known in some circles recently, Monty Burns. Good evening, Monty.
Good evening, lads. How are you?
Thanks for having us. Good to see the nuclear power stations coming on well.
Indeed.
Over by. We'll look forward to updates, and we may have important news to break with the listeners very soon. But as always, Hector Bandito is hoping to join us. He is actually currently out walking his dog, I believe, trying to maybe calm down a little. Many of you may know Hector is on medication these days, given his age. So he is trying to calm down after the Real Betis Celtic 4-3 extravaganza, Monty. So I know you were pretty enraptured watching that game, even though it was a defeat. There were some positives, especially the how can we say, the Celtic play, or the playing of Celtic these days, the actual being enamoured and wanting to watch Celtic play is a nice change from last season.
I think even for a few of the previous seasons, and it's no disrespect of what's going on before. Rodgers' team was great to watch. Lennon's second season, some fantastic results, and some performances, we can't get over revisionist that they were brilliant, but I genuinely look forward to sitting down and being entertained by Celtic at the minute. And he knew tonight was a free hit. That's a top team and we have so many players out. But to go 2-0 up, and then we have these brain farts that last about 5 minutes, it seems, and a couple of times in a game. And we concede 4 against a really good team. Then we score a third one. And you're still getting beat, but it's just really, really joyous to watch. So, loving it. Loving the whole Postecoglou thing. And he's only 3.5 months in the job. Could be something special coming here.
Oh, that's interesting. We'll come to that fact regards Ange Ball, etc., and the Celtic approach in a second. But I don't know if anyone else listening, if anyone else was concerned, but I was concerned for Ralph Malf during that game, because Ralph has been a little bit negative, let's just say, recently, especially with our away form under Ange, and we did all fear a bit of a gubbing. Especially Hector if he does come on. So to suddenly go 1-up, I thought, oh, here we go. That's nice to score, isn't it? Nice to have that pleasant surprise. Then to go 2-up, and then almost to go 3-up. Let's be honest, we should have went 3-up if Jota had only squared it maybe. But fair's fair, never. But to go 2-up and think, wait a minute, this is all going too well, and then suddenly to have that brain fart, as Monty said, and next thing, and as Dominic Diamond said on Twitter, as soon as they scored the first, everybody knew you were getting beat tonight. That's the that's the Celtic way. Oh, here we go. Even though you're leading 2-1, you suddenly go, well, the game's gone. And I was feeling for you, Ralph. How were you? I never checked the WhatsApp channel. You may have noticed. I wanted to keep it fresh for this chat. So how were you? Did you survive okay?
Well, they say it 2-0 up. I was, as I put on the group, when are the real Betis turning up? Well, about half an hour later, we're 4 goals to the bad. So I've not been as absorbed in a game as what I was with that one for a long time. I've not enjoyed a game, even though we get beat. And if you, under the old rules, the 2-legged games, 3 goals away for him. We have 2 probably best strikers not playing. And we'll come to it maybe a wee bit later, but a weakened midfield, certainly weakened. No ball winners. we kept to the system. There was a lot of positives, even though we get beat. A lot still to look forward to. I'm still happy enough because I think 1 point away for him at the 3 will get us through, because I can't see anybody beating us at home. We're a different team at home.
I actually did tweet after the game, we can beat them at Celtic Park. I was almost going to put the word Parkers in for a laugh, but I thought maybe it's just too early to try adding in wee jokes, because you just know some people will be a wee bit raw. And I just like to say, for anyone listening, you don't have the benefit of what I see on the video here, but Monty's cat is directly behind him. He's oblivious, but it's as if your cat's staring into my soul here, Monty. It's right in the middle of the screen. It's as if you don't know what I know. It's got that look on
it
his
is.
face.
I just seen him in the corner there. There's 3 of them talking about here, and he's judging me great.
Looking at you as if do not go outside. I repeat, do not go outside.
Is that a cat?
Yes.
I thought it was an episode of Paranormal Investigations.
For anyone listening, arrived in the corner of Monty. Monty's in a dark room and suddenly this shape arrived in the background. It's like the Conjuring 3. You know what I mean? Conjuring comes to Lurgan. You know what I mean?
Channeling Derek Acora. Dick.
Right, so back to the game. We're hoping Hector, as our resident tactician, can join us soon enough, because he has Mr. Positivity, but it was not very positive when it came to Mr. Sorrow tonight. I don't know if anyone follows us at eTimsNet on Twitter, but Hector was losing the rag very strong. After 8 minutes, he was literally wanting Sorrow height. So I think we Sorrow's ears as well as his arse would have been burning tonight with Hector's lambasting him, because he was not a happy man. But I seen somebody like, Ralph, you have alluded to the fact that you would like to see us having a ball winner in there, other than Callum McGregor being the ball mover, so to speak. And I'm just talking about the short passes, taking over the centre half and moving it to your attackers. You'd actually want to see a ball winner. You want to see him in beside McGregor?
I thought we looked fantastic with the ball. I thought, well, we looked kind of comfortable, but when we weren't in control or in possession, we kind of lost our way a wee bit. Brain farts is a good word. We didn't have somebody like Paul Lambert or even Neil Lennon that was anticipating what was going on and just dropping back a wee bit to close down their options. Mm-hmm. That's something that's missing. I don't think McGregor does that, and it's difficult because we're only one transfer window in. There's been shenanigans behind the scenes, and I think what the manager's decided to do is to get in the players that'll score goals and worry about the ones that'll stop it later on. I hope so. But we're definitely missing that wee bit of invulnerability, that bit of protection for the defence.
I wouldn't disagree, Ralph. I think Postecoglou's approach is to build the philosophy, the attacking philosophy first, and then retrofit the defence afterwards, where most kind of traditional sort of thinking, let's call it the old way. You build a big defence first, and then you push on from there. So everyone that's kind of given a soundboard on him says his team's come good in the second season, because effectively then your forward plays, you would imagine your forward plays, established, and now you're just tightening up at the back. But maybe you could do it a little bit quicker for us. You don't know, but I'm delighted he's not changing his philosophy. It's not like Rodgers did the same thing and we got pumped and we stuck with it. This feels different. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the hopes bringing it down.
It was evident towards the end of the game there. When Ralston got one back, you've 10 minutes maybe left, and you're thinking, do you know what? We might just sneak a draw here. But the temptation to push the ball forward and hope for the best must have been immense amongst the players.
Huge.
Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah.
They kept holding back and they were patient. So whatever philosophy he's putting into them, it's starting to settle. And remember, a lot of those were pretty much second-team players. Now, if he's got that ingrained in them all the way through, in about 6 months' time, we'll see an entirely different result, should I say. If we can get through this group, we can go on and do something spectacular this season.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here because I think we're in danger of seeing it through green tinted glasses. I'm quite happy to be the Mr. Doom and Gloom in this aspect, because I was going to say, Ralph, there is a case to be made. I think there is a case to be made, as you hinted at earlier, of, for want of a better phrase, I'm not a resident tactician like Hector, but a player who can cover the horizontal, the player who can cover 10 yards in front of the centre halves and go left or right. And like you've seen the night, like Jota never came back once to help Ralston. Jota's like a forward. He's not even a James Forrest who can shut off. He's explosive from 45 yards to 85 yards. He's not an 80-yard man who's going to come up and down. And that's it. So Ralston is totally exposed. Sorrow cannot cover that area. Turnbull cannot cover that kind of space. Roderick's never going to cover that space. So, we're great. 40 yards in the opponent's half, we look brilliant with 5 players facing the goalkeeper with the ball at their feet. Some of Roderick's turns tonight were just it was unbelievable just to watch him with the ball at his feet. We're creating that space to allow him to play. But then, if and when the opposition get the ball and they cross the halfway line, we suddenly get we're two new defensive partnership. We've got a left and a right back who aren't totally up to speed, so to speak. And then, I don't know if we've got any midfielders. Like, McGregor wasn't there, but Sorrow was, I don't know. He was a man short after 10 minutes, even though he did make a few tackles. But we started to rely on the big ditch tackles again, rather than the structure.
I don't know, Desi. I think it's down to the shape that you would play in midfield, and I'm sure Hector will permit me to do a little bit of tactical waffle. If you're playing in an attacking kind of sense, then you're playing triangles and angles that want to move the ball forward at all times. Sorrow's movement of getting the ball out of a touch and passing forward is exemplary. What you're talking about is trying to get someone who will cover ground, that sort of mopping up space. And if you're looking for a comparison, he's not a Lambert, he's not a Lennon. And if you actually take those two as comparators, Lambert was quite a forward-thinking player as well. So, the days of getting a Peter Grant, God bless him, to support the guy who could actually play football, they're long gone. And I don't think we'll see that notion of a defensive midfielder. Can you think of a top, Makalele's the last one I can think of. I can't think right now of a top-level defensive midfielder. They're all technical. So I don't think we'll see it. I do agree we need to be more solid in the middle, but I think our system of play means you're never going to get a clogger. I think McCarthy is probably the closest we're going to get to that solid all-round midfielder who's maybe a wee bit more defensively minded. I think that's just what we'll get.
Yeah, but not necessarily the actual clogger, but just somebody who could do that for want a better word, that sweeping arc role, as in covering that 30 yards to 25 up to the centre, he can bring the ball out, and he can move it, but he's just going to be able to cover that, because we end up leaving massive spaces. And it's easy enough for them to then play it in. I think Ralston looked as though he'd been rushed back, so again, there was big questions about the bench tonight. He looked a wee bit rusty. He scored a good goal, but he did look a bit rusty and a wee bit kind of lacking in confidence, which comes when you're not 100% fit.
Not only that, with Ralston, if you look, Stephen Welsh hasn't had in fact, he's had a good start to the season. But as soon as Cameron Carl-Vickers is here, he's out of the team. Right, Starfelt and Welsh were playing quite well together. Welsh was scoring goals, he was defending, they looked as though they were developing an understanding, but he's out. Whichever way you look at it, he wants Carter-Vickers in. Now, Ralston must be thinking that with the arrival of Juranovic, he's next out. And for a while tonight, he was kind of subdued, and then he blundered around a wee bit, trying maybe a bit too hard, gave away a couple of fouls. But he kept his head, and towards the end of the game, he got a good cross in, and he scored a goal. The guy's heart must be immense. Whatever, but he wants to play. He wants to play well. But he wants to keep his place. Yeah. But it took him, I think, a wee bit too long tonight to realise that. But to get the confidence to do it.
Yeah, the one thing though, Ralph, is that this is back to squad and squad levels. And I was kind of, you look at I think it was their third goal, and Ralston's positioning was incredibly poor. Sorrow didn't help him, and we know that Jota's pushed on up and he's gone anyway. None of the three of them were remotely spatially aware. They didn't know where they were meant to be. But what was more disappointing for me was the attempt to recover from being out of position. For both of them looked to be too slow and half-hearted. And I think with Ralston, it's hard. You're absolutely right, hard of a lion. But is he, like, look at the difference between him and Juranovic. I think we've signed exceptional players.
Go for Leon.
What's it?
Yeah,
welcome back, Hector.
Oh, welcome back, Hector, with that joyous news. But I think,
Hector, can you give us an animal update? Because we've been besieged tonight with animals from Ralph and Monty's scary cat in the background. You've managed to see it. I've got Tia lying behind me. Can you give us an update on your dog, perhaps? Have you just come in for a walk?
My dog, yeah, he's been crossing his legs. You know, I've got a Bordeaux, I've got a hooch, so he's quite a large dog. He only did the two massive shites.
Lovely. But like Celtic then.
I'll let you guys. I'm listening in the background, listening.
Right. So we're basically talking in tonight's game, and we were discussing there. So you are the resident tactician. We were asking about do we need a ball winner in the middle? Somebody, and I was saying maybe somebody more who can cover that space just in front of, and we're talking like right across the park, from left to right and in the middle. Somebody who could sweep across in front of the defence to cover the large spaces that are getting left. Morty's pointing out it doesn't really work that way, especially with Ange's philosophy. But I was saying we're having 5 and 6 guys in the opponent's half, but then we turn the ball over and we're down to 4, and none of those 4 look totally assured to control the situation at this point in time.
I think that we discussed this the last time, and it's people like myself who I always feel that you need the flexibility, right? But this is me and my amateur way of looking at things, that I like to sometimes go away from home and have a 4-2-3-1, have the two. That's no Ange. It's not how he's going to do things. Now, we'll probably have a lot of debates and disagreements and arguments with that over the next 6-9 whatever months with that. But Ange doesn't want to play a 4-2-3-1. He wants to play his style of football. But see, I thought tonight was a free shot, because look at the players we had missing. We're going to Betis, who were 6th last season in Spain, right, in that league. They've got some terrific players. For example, they brought Carvalho off the bench. He's the Portuguese international team's number 6, right? He played on Monday night, as did a few others, to be fair, who were rested tonight. But we can't afford to go there tonight with that team and expect what we're expecting to win. To see go 2-0 up tonight was beyond my wildest dreams. I thought we were terrific for the first 25 minutes. Could have went 3-0 up. Jota, who I thought was really good going forward, not so good defensively, but really good going forward, had a chance. 2 weak goals. But listen, to go 4-2 down, we could totally collapsed and went 6-2 or 7. We didn't. We kept going and we kept going. I thought we deserved at least a third goal. And arguably, do you know what, over the 90 minutes, I thought a draw was possibly a fair result over the 90 minutes. And considering we've no got, my opinion, our best players, McGregor, Kyogo and Julian, for me, are our 3 best players, the spine of the team, right? We're missing Forrest, missing Abada. What are we expecting? I thought we did really well.
So what was your prediction that you did not make public, Hector? We can share it on the podcast now.
I say 3-1 or 4-1. Yeah, and by the way, when it went 4-2, be honest, right, you were all thinking the same as me, weren't you? This would be 5-2 or 6-2. So we come back and get the late goal to make it 4-3. So I say 3-1 or 4-1. I wasn't a million miles away, right?
So you're taking positive aspects from tonight that we can build on. Ralph, what were you? Are you saying I think you're a wee bit more positive than I thought you'd be, given recent lamentations about away form and the roller coaster that is Ange Ball at the moment.
Because we were away from home, I didn't expect us to win. I would have been more than happy with a point. At 2-0, I thought, wow, we're doing what we did in the Czech Republic. We're a different team away, and then of course it fell apart, and it didn't fall apart. They actually went for it. The commentator said something along the lines of that maybe they felt a wee bit aggrieved at the penalty, which there's no way we'd get that penalty in Scotland.
No.
And I first goal either.
Been sent off for diving. Yeah. The first goal, when they did the VAR check, I thought it definitely wasn't offside. Did it hit his hand? And of course, if a hand's used or an arm's used, then it's not a goal. So they were right to check it. And from an angle or two, it did look as though it could have been taken off. But we rode with luck. That maybe gave them that wee bit of a sense of a grievance. And they came at us with everything after that. But what's most important is we didn't collapse. We didn't fall apart completely. And that is probably the best thing I can take for this game tonight.
I've got one criticism. Sorry, I've got one criticism of Ange. The players we had missing, nothing you can do about it, right? My criticism was Sorrow, right?
Told you.
Sorrow get picked.
If anyone's listening, I told you.
We're watching this, right? We're watching this. He gets booked after 8 minutes. And by the way, some refs might have red carded that. They got the guy with the studs in the ankle. That could have been a straight red. 8 minutes gone. He then dives in 10 minutes later. Should have been. I've no idea why he's still on the pitch. We should have been 10 men after 15, 16 minutes. And he was still diving in after that. And you're thinking, Ange, sub him. You've got Henderson on the bench, who is a no bad wee player. You've got McCarthy. I get why McCarthy. I get he's probably just thinking, right, he's maybe going to do the 60 right now. I get that. I admire the fact he's trying to build him up. But Sorrow, come on, you're watching the same game as us, right? He's a liability, especially tonight. In SPL, he might get away with it, but he was appalling. That was my one criticism of the manager tonight, was keeping him on for so long.
In a sense, he kept him on maybe for so long because if he'd taken him off and used that substitution with McCarthy, that was it. You'll notice we never made another substitution after McCarthy come on, because he didn't feel like he could alter what was to an extent working, even though the result went against us. To bring on somebody younger and for things to collapse would have damaged the younger player.
But we were 4-2 down when Sorrow was playing, Ralph, right? And
no, I agree.
By the way, it was a red card. It was a red card waiting to happen. I actually felt when he went off and McCarthy, 50% fit, 60%, with a little bit more solidity about us. Possibly because Betis maybe took the foot off the gas slightly, made a few subs, but we'd never had. But his experience there, it just made us more solid, a little bit more solid, without being exceptional.
Right? Yeah, but again, that's the sort of thing I'm hoping. Like a McCarthy could come in and sit just in that 30-yard, 35-yard zone and say things like, Jota, you need to come back another 10 yards. I mean, Roger, you need to just sit here for 5 minutes. Turnbull, you need to be 10 yards away from Roger, that sort of thing.
Did you know McCarthy did that? When McCarthy came on, he was immediately trying to cajole people and move on up. He was trying to instruct. Yep. He was trying to bring people into a wee bit more cohesion. And maybe that's what Sorrow misses. I like Sorrow as a player. Before you come on, Hector, we were saying you get 2 thumbs down from Hector.
That's because he's only got 2 thumbs.
he can move a ball through midfield lines really, really quickly. The only other player we have in the middle who can do that as well is McGregor. Genuinely. Turnbull is an extra touch. Genuinely an extra touch every time. McCarthy's an extra touch to 2 touches. Sorrow can get it and move it real quick. And I think with a bit of discipline, there's a player in there.
It comes back to we need a ball winner where Sorrow's playing. It's all if we've got other players that can move a ball forward, that's fine.
Well, there's only room for one of them, and it's McGregor. I mean, so that's McGregor's role. The ball winning role has now been replaced by the harrying of your forwards to win the ball, so the ball breaks to someone else, right? So, but this to bring it back before we go back on to more positives, because I think there's a lot of positives to look at, especially Ajeti and Rogic. I'd like to just have a wee 5 minutes on Ajeti, but before that, this come back to something that Monty mentioned earlier on regards getting up 2 goals up then losing it, etc. So Maravchik67 on Twitter, who is, if anyone's on Twitter listening who's on Twitter, really should follow Marav67. Always really good for your European updates, etc. and various kind of group stages.
The coefficient stuff, isn't it? He's brilliant.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
But Maravchik67,
and actually the way the tournaments work.
Exactly. Moravcik 67 after the game posted this. This is the third time we've thrown away a 2-goal lead in Europe within 12 months. And we're masters at losing goals in short batches. Betis, 2 goals in 3 minutes. Milan, which Hector, I noticed you mentioned, I think, on the chat earlier. Milan, 2 goals in 2 minutes. Lille, we were also 2 goals up, remember? 2 goals in 8 minutes. Yep. Copenhagen, 2 goals in 3 minutes. Leipzig, 2 goals in 4 minutes. Astana, remember them? 2 goals in 2 minutes. And PSG, 2 in 5 minutes, and then 3 in 5 minutes. Right. So again, I'm just trying to know about this. So again, maybe it's not an Ange Ball thing. It's just a Celtic Ball thing. No. This is something. This seems to be interesting. Like we lose the head when we lose that first goal. And Hector, I'd mentioned that Dominic Diamond said as soon as that first goal went in for Betis, even though we were 2-1 up, every Celtic fan kind of shrugged and thought, "Us has lost this game now." Are we still in that? Are we still in that lull? We need to climb out of that shallow and gradually bring.
It's different players, though. It's different players. See if it's the same. See if it's the same players, right? On all the games you'd mentioned, or roughly, 5 or 6 of a group of defenders, you go fair enough. Different coaches, different players.
Mm-hmm. So is that the definition of the Celtic way? Doesn't matter who's playing or who we're playing. We just keep game.
We were always known as the Civ, weren't we? Back in our youth. This isn't a modern thing. A lot of that's because we're so open. We're so wide open how we play, right? We don't seem to just control a game and say, right, we'll change tactics. We're 2-0 up. Let's be really cohesive and hard to break down. We don't seem to be cute. We just play gung-ho football. And a lot of people, it's Ange Ball, but it's not. It's been how we have been virtually all my life watching Celtic Europe, probably apart from Martin O'Neill when he was in charge, when he'd get the 6'4" giants in and just, thou shalt not pass. Yep. So I think it's a Celtic thing. It's how we play. We're open. We're too open. And Ange isn't going to change. He's just not going to change.
So the challenge is, are you happy with being that open and knowing that we're always going to hit these brain farts, as I called them earlier? Or would you prefer the more, let's call it what it is, the more stale, structured football that is probably going to be
clinical is what the Mourinho's would call it.
We can do both. We can do both.
We can't if you've got principles. You can't.
No, you can. You've got a plan B and a plan C. Absolutely, you should have.
What was O'Neill's plan B and plan C?
Well, remember, Martin O'Neill had one plan. He had one plan. He had a plan A until he was found out. But McLeish of all people, he had a 3-5-2. Remember, 3-5-2, and eventually he went to a 4-4-2. And after that, he would tweak it now and again. He had one plan.
But that's not the ability to play a particular style and have a fallback. He changed the style when his style got found out. My point is, you can't start with that type of football and be able to all of a sudden turn it on next week and be a really attacking.
You can consolidate. You can consolidate, right? If you go 2-0 up, why don't you bring one man back and sit in front of the defence, give you the 2 for 10 minutes? Consolidate for 10. Put them under pressure. They're at home. They're at home 2-0 down. We've not got any fans there, right? Their fans are booing and all sorts. For us, the fans have already turned against them. Consolidate for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Take the sting out of the game, then go for it again. But we don't. We're so wide open.
That comes from both experience and coaching, right? And right now, the Celtic team that we're watching and I'm falling in love with has neither of those two things. Doesn't have sufficient coaching yet because the man's only in the door a couple of months, and it doesn't have sufficient experience yet. And to your point, with 5 or 6 players missing there who arguably would have started. So I can't see a negative in anything that the man's doing, other than you're going to lose the odd match that you shouldn't lose if you were more pragmatic. But sure, if you ditch your principles at the first sign of fucking problems, then you've ditched them, they're gone. People won't buy in. So I think this is us for the next year. And then, and only then, I think will we see what Postecoglou's genuinely capable of. And I'm really excited about it. I think it's brilliant to watch.
I agree, in one sense, in that, it's the way we're going to play. It's the way we're always going to be open. But what you also need to take into account is any opposition team in Europe that doesn't see us every week will look at statistics like what Moravcik 67's put on and say, right, these guys are vulnerable immediately after they lose a goal. So they play differently. So, whilst in one sense, we need to maybe stiffen up a wee bit. But that's how they'll see us. They will see, right, we've just scored, we'll score again because everybody else has.
Aye. And that with
So even if it means kicking the ball out,
but
as
with
soon
experience,
as you pick up,
with
do
experience,
something about that pattern.
sorry, with experience and with coaching, that stops.
But
That's it.
but it's not, we're not exactly. I know we had Montgomery and we had a few, but we can't go. Oh, we're signing proven professionals now, and then say, oh, they're going to need a wee while to grow up and experience things. Like one of my questions would be, like at those times, Hector, can you afford a Roderick and a Turnbull in your team?
No.
Like, no, this is like that kind of idea. And you've got to, but as Monty said, well, you can't go sacrificing that swashbuckling attack.
No,
One player.
a
We're talking one
pragmatic-
player, Desi. We're talking one player. I'm not
Yeah,
talking
but-
about.
but yeah,
Hold on.
fair
I'm not
enough.
talking about going to. I'm not talking about going to Craig Levine. Was it a 0-0?
No,
Is it a 10-0-0? We're not talking about that. All we're saying is it's about common sense. It's about street sense. It's about professionalism, right? It's not your principles at all. And by the way, Foxy, we're totally agreed. My opening point about the players missing and everything else. You heard what I said. I'm totally with you there. All I'm saying is, as a professional, this isn't Diddy level, amateur, or even you're lucky playing junior level. This is European football, right? All it takes is the coaching staff to say, and the players to say, look, Gaffer, we're 2-0 up. I'm saying is bring Turnbull back 20 metres for 10 minutes.
No.
It's no sacrificing any. It's just doing a bit of street sense, a bit of savvy, right?
And
take the sting out of the game. That's all I'm saying.
And,
right?
and I know how much you love stats, right? Because I agree with you. But the stats of tonight's game are fucking staggering, right? In this context. Accurate passes, Betis, 291. Celtic, 454. Pass success, Betis, 83. Celtic, 86%. Fouls conceded, moot. We had 6 corners to their 3 offsides each. They had 17 shots. We had 16 shots away from home. 5 off target. They had 3 off target. We had 7 on target. We hit the woodwork once. We had 13 shots inside their box. You can, and with a makeshift team playing with this philosophy, right? And yes, ultimately we're beat. It doesn't matter. It's the fear I had at the start of the season was, oh fuck, is it Tommy Burns again? You know, are we into that? Beautiful football, but we'll always get beat. This just feels different. This feels like the start of something that when it tightens could be exciting.
Whoa, wait a minute. I'm afraid I've got one criticism, right, which was the sorrow. That was the main criticism. All I'm saying is, I thought overall tonight, back to my opening comments, I thought we surpassed what I thought tonight.
Oh, yeah,
Positive. I'm just saying, going back to the point the guys made, there's a recurring theme.
Yeah.
We as a club, doesn't matter who, we've got to be more street sense, a bit street savvy here, right? So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, right. So let's go back. Let's go back to the positives, and I would like to. I'll start with yourself, Monty, because you are the man. You're anyone who listens. Some people have bought the E-Tims T-shirt with where your famous catchphrase of "There's a player in there." Thanks to all those who bought one of those. But a Yeti, I'll be in a Yeti, and it was quite interesting to see to hear tonight that it was Pellegrini who signed him for $8 million or so for West Ham. That was a nice wee touch for him to get back. So what's that? Three goals he scored, I think, in the last couple of games.
3 and 2.
So he has really come on to a game. So you feeling as though finally somebody's came good for you after all these years.
Broken club. What did you put up?
Exactly.
Twice a day. He looks fitter. He looks at least a stone and a half, 2 stone lighter than when he came. He looks like he's interested. I think he just got victim of circumstance. He turned up in Glasgow when he wasn't allowed out of the house and just moped around the place. Remember, he turned up late. Looks happy. He looks like a decent forward. You know, West Ham spent $8 million on him, would suggest there was something there too. So, and this Greek guy, whenever he gets fit and is ready, it's a challenge to him as well. So, fucking long may continue. But I like him. I like the way he holds the ball up. Nobody talked enough about that header he scored at the weekend. That header at the weekend was exceptional.
And
exceptional.
Also a header they scored tonight that get disallowed.
Disallowed.
That was a great finish.
Yeah. So, if we play that type of game, and you can see that the service that those boys are going to get, whoever's playing at that pivot at the top, with the wingers that we have, with Forrest when he's back with Abada, with Jota. Montgomery was exceptional again tonight for a 19-year-old and looks like he's got a bag of tricks in him too. Whoever's playing up in that pivot role is going to score a lot of goals. And Ayeti seems to have that same type of movement as Kyogo. Likes to get across a player. He's sharp. Maybe not just as sharp as Kyogo, but I really enjoyed it. I struggle to find a negative in him at the minute because he looks like a player who's accepted the challenge. So long may it continue.
No, exactly. I think he is a kind of, again, I think a lot of us were wondering where he fitted in because we were looking at somebody like Edouard who could play with his back to goal, and then we were looking at Kyogo who could play facing the goal and racing away from a defender. Ayeti seems to be maybe somewhere in the middle because he can play with his back to goal. I know that one at the very end of the game tonight, the kind of ref blew for a whistle. There wasn't a whistle, but tonight he had a lot of good wee runs, he had a lot of good wee layoffs. But I was going to say to you, Ralph, you're always interested in the kind of backroom staff. Do you think Celtic should maybe be looking at the West Ham forward scout? Because he was also the guy who signed Haller, who scored 4 goals last night for Ajax, and West Ham let him go.
That's right.
The thing with Ayeti, he had a dreadful season last season, and from what I gather, he wasn't that interested. He was just kind of here, and that was that. And he'd play when he got a game, and if he didn't get a game, he'd maybe just.
I think that he scored against Dundee United his first game.
However, he's scoring goals, but given the service he's getting, you could expect a decent striker to score goals. But there was something tonight that reminded me of Chris Sutton, and it's what you're talking about, the backing into players holding the ball up. Now, if we had Ayeti coming on later in the game, or Ayeti starting and maybe Kyogo coming on, or even a Greek guy, that's quite a potent mix. If everybody does sort of adopt it's good for the team thing, we've got 3 different types of striker. 3 different players that can play in a different way, depending on the situation or the opposition, should I say. Again, it's almost as though you want to fast forward 6 months and see where we're at, instead of picking over the bones of a defeat, which really might not even have been a defeat if we're at full strength.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd love to see, if it's the difficult one. It's all being fit, right? But if they were all fit, I would love to see Forrest on the right, Kyogo on the left, and Ayeti play between the lines as the number 9. I think the chances, because he's a poacher, he's a penalty box. He's not Edouard. Edouard would never get near the box too often. He's in that danger area where if Kyogo and Forrest, and the way that they hug the touchline and also come in to play off the striker, I think the chances we create for Ayeti would be frightening if that was our front 3. I really do, and I just hope at some point we get the chance to see them all in action, fully fit.
That's a good point, Ralph.
That was a fantastic finish with a head. He picked his spot and it went where he wanted it to go.
Yeah, and it glided.
He's got Kyogo running either side of him, and I hate to compare it, but you've got a kind of Sutton Larson relationship. Maybe not as developed as when we got those 2, but certainly something to look forward to. And for me to say that about Ayeti, considering he's been here 18 months now, maybe, is it?
It's amazing about 3 goals in 2 games, isn't it?
Yeah, but also Hector.
He get 20 this year. Ayeti will score 20 goals this year.
But he's going to get dropped. He's going to get dropped as soon as Kyogo comes back, because I don't think he will play. I think he will go for Abada and Jota and Kyogo. But hopefully it's a case of they do rotate and they do experiment. I mean,
if your striker's scoring goals, you don't take him out of the team.
No.
Famous last words. Tell that to Anthony Rolson. I was going to say to you, Hector, I think that was a good point Ralph made regards the abundance of forward options that we may have of different formations and different variations of play. But what about then if you move back? We've already questioned the fact that McGregor's injured, and maybe it's actually a good thing we got to experience what happens when McGregor's injured tonight, because we suddenly, rather than training never happens, it's happened, and we've got to see that the limitations of a Sorrell and the need for maybe a McCarthy to be fully fit as soon as possible. But again, even then, Julian coming back, and then at the full-back positions, are we happy that we've actually got a squad that can cover those positions, or do we need Ange to start considering maybe his formations and that, as you maybe hinted at earlier, being a bit more pragmatic where needed? I'm not saying all the time, etc., but maybe just a wee bit of kind of pragmatism.
I wasn't expecting, Desi. I actually think what we did in that window was far be it from me. I'm usually critical of the board, and we'll probably come to that. But I actually thought we did a good job overall in the window, considering the dog's dinner, the mess that was left behind when Ange wasn't appointed till God knows when. The COVID situation, getting players over, having to self-isolate, yada yada. I actually thought we did well, but I wasn't expecting everything to be ready in this window. I'm thinking Ange has probably got at least a couple lined up from the Japanese League in January. As soon as that window opens, I'll be surprised if he hasn't. If they're anything like Kyogo, it will be great. So I think we're a couple short. Tonight demonstrated that, right? It's back to Ralph's point. We couldn't really make any changes because there was hardly anyone on the bench we could look to bring on. So we're probably one or two light, but considering where we were, I think we've done no too bad. It'd be great to get Julian back. He's a leader, and he wins everything pretty much in the air for us. But he's the organiser, the leader. And it's the spine, McGregor and Kyogo. That's big. Hart's been a fantastic sign. It's something I never thought I would have ever said. Somebody said to me, Joe Hart would come in and you'll think he's been great, and I'd have laughed at them. But you can see his leadership qualities and an abundance there. And you can see he talks well, he's got high standards, and you need that bit of experience and that enthusiasm, especially building a brand new squad together. The leadership's vital, and I think bringing him in is great. Get Julian in, he's a leader as well, and McGregor. We start to build and build, but I think we're doing okay. I think we're doing better than I thought we'd be doing, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, when was the last time? Sorry, Ralph. When was the last time we let in 4 goals and the keeper was not to blame for any of them?
Aye, weird.
Yeah, that's a good point. The thing with Hart's been a tremendous signing. I was sitting outside and watching the game, and I said, "That's Joe Hart again, another save." And my wife says to me, "What? That Joe Hart for England?" I said, "Aye, that one." And the crucial thing with him was, if you remember the game against Alkmaar, he went over to Ange and says, "Look, something's not right here. We need to go along." And the manager listened to him, and they made the change. I think you'd probably need to go back as far as Billy McNeil to see a player making a change to the way that the team's playing. Mm-hmm. He's obviously well respected by the manager, and the players, they'll be looking up to him as well. That's what he did at Tottenham. He worked with the young guys. Within a year or so, I think he'll be captain. I really do. And if he's not vice captain already, then he should be.
Well, it was strange to see him captain tonight, because I thought maybe Roderick would have got it, to be honest. But Hector, a quick question for you then.
Who was the captain tonight, by the way? Sorry.
Who? Sorry, Ralph?
Who was the captain tonight?
I think it was Hart.
Hart.
No, there you are. Sorry, I didn't.
Honestly, I thought maybe Roderick would have got it for longevity. But Hector, one for you then. So Julian comes back. So who drops out? Starfelt? It's
an interesting one just now, isn't it? They're all new. I think Welsh can feel a bit disappointed.
Exactly,
he's not getting a start just now, because I don't see what he's done much wrong at all. Carter Vickers just in. He needs games, right? He needs another 5 or 6 games. Starfelt, I actually think there's an improvement now compared to how bad he was, and I actually think he's just he's just been so poor. I don't think he's as bad as what we've seen, but the proofs and the evidence we see in front of us, right? Tonight, we lost 4 goals again, and I wouldn't really blame him for much again. Yeah. It's a weird one, isn't it? Usually you can have a scapegoat or two, but like Alkmaar away, it was definitely Joe Hart, and it was definitely Starfelt, the 2 disastrous goals we lost. Tonight you're going to go and possibly Carter Vickers for the second one, switched off a wee bit. But I don't know. Julian plus, do you know what? It's actually good having a competition for places. That's something. So bring it on.
I honestly thought you were going to say a competition to see who's to blame for the goals there. We couldn't decide who's.
We wouldn't put too much stock in Julian playing again. The clique's been broken up. I think he'll be away next. The only reason he wasn't away this time round was because he was injured.
Who, Julian?
Oh,
Yeah.
there he is. Back to normal. That's him. Back to normal
No,
again.
no.
Here we go.
If I were to
Mr.
tell you,
Conspiracy Theory Brexit has turned up.
a massive bet with somebody else in our CSC that Julian will not play for Celtic again, which I'll probably have to pay weekly. It's that much money. I don't think he'll play again. I don't think he'll play again, A, because he doesn't want to, B, because he isn't fit enough, and C, because his wee pals that used to undermine everybody else are all away, with one exception, and he was playing tonight and got a lot of criticism from our resident tactician. It was a French-speaking clique. It was the ones that all went out, from what I believe, and disrespected the manager. I thought at one time the Cham Dembele Edouard thing would have been fantastic for Celtic. It's turned out the opposite in a sense. But the exceptions of Dembele still seem to
There's always groups within groups. There's always cliques within cliques.
Aye, absolutely.
If that was the negative and they're all gone, then so be it. Bolingoli, if we can find a club for him to take him.
There's another one. I forgot all about it.
He'd be gone as well.
Yeah.
So, no more Vive la France.
Right, okay, so we're happy enough with tonight's defeat. Is that what we're saying? That's where we are as Celtic fans at the moment, and I'm putting that sarcastic.
Happy.
That's what you've reduced.
We're understanding.
Yourself
no,
to.
we're understanding, not happy. Understanding.
The mighty Real Betis have beat us. Real Betis. That's what you've become. You're shallow Celtic fans. I mean, you're basically you're content to get beat 4-3 with a 6-rate mob in Spain, one of the worst leagues in Europe these days. I think is that the first Spanish team to win this week in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly. Yep, possibly. That's another great start for Celtic to win. Right, so let's move on. Let's move on from tonight's game. But quickly, Hector. So Livingston at the weekend. Before we come to the big talking point of recent Celtic times, Livingston at the weekend. Do you think there'll be many changes given that shitey pitch of theirs?
That's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's not the kind of pitch you'd want to play McCarthy on, is it? Because remember when we used to play at Kelly and other pitches.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Gozo.
Aye, was left out. So I don't see McCarthy. But Sorrow away to Livingston, right? Come on, right? That should be doable. If McGregor's a risk, then he's not playing in that pitch, is he? On Sunday.
But again, McGregor. Henderson on.
He took off after about 60 minutes against Ross County at the weekend, and we're not quite sure whether it was just must be a strain or something.
Aye.
So you wrap him in cotton wool, right? You don't play him on Sunday. I'm thinking, well, you're going to have a Bada back, aren't you? So he'll probably come back in.
Won't he? Yom Kippur they're offered into him and.
I think Welsh will probably get a start, because Ange made the point the other week. It wasn't about dropping a player; it's about he needs a squad for rotation because the way he wants to play. So see, Welsh will probably come back in. Is the Irish boy Scales? I mean, he's fully fit. He's been playing this season.
He's on the bench.
A chance that he might get a start.
To be fair, Monty, you were nearly on the bench tonight, given their numbers. Even in Shaw, I think a lot. But again, it'd be interesting to see if he felt confident enough in the system and the players' adaptation of that system, if they're ready to start bringing 3 or 4 out and play it somewhere at Livingston, rather than doing it at Celtic Park where you think they would be comfortable. I mean, would they be happy to go in and do it at Livingston? That would make
It's an interesting one, because Livingston's one of the places we always seem to struggle.
Colgate teams.
But we always seem to say either a shite draw, or we might grind out a 1-0 win, or we actually lost a few games. So it's interesting the way that Ange plays on that pitch, how if we can keep that going on that surface, right, or whether we'll struggle, it'll be another fucking fight to try and grind out something. It'd be great to go and pump them on that surface, I must admit. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, because again, like we used to talk about Jack Hendry being Bambi, but Big Julien was like Bambi on the Livingston pitch. Remember, Dykes literally rag-rolled him all over the shop. That was, I mean, it was unbelievable to watch a £7 million player being totally out of his comfort zone. That idea. But again, that's Sunday's game. That's still to come, right? And that was tonight's game. So
will he play Tom Rogic? Because even towards the end of the game tonight, he was still running. He was still I think the commentator called it bustling. That's Tom Rogic. Under Neil Lennon, you'd get an hour out of him. That's the change in him is astonishing.
Don't we have a different sports science set up at the minute to manage injuries? Don't we have that whole in-health?
It's being prepared at the moment, which is what we're coming to that. We're coming to that in a second, Monty. But you're right to allude to that, because this is part of the Ange overhaul. Right, so this to wrap up. This to wrap up where we've been. So 4-3 defeat to Betis, but we could see some light at the end of that tunnel, and I think we're all agreed that we can beat Betis at home. Would you agree on that, Hector?
Well, Betis are also missing half a team, so yes, but don't.
No, I'm not saying it'll be anything more than maybe a 1-goal victory, but I think
we can certainly target qualifying. I don't see why we can't try to qualify for the group.
Mm-hmm. And then Ralph alluded to earlier that he's hoping for maybe 1 point away and the rest at home. I dislike Hector. I don't know if you noticed, but Jeremy Frimpong laid on the Leverkusen second goal tonight. So I was thinking about your old favourite player. Oh my days! I was thinking, there he is. Hector will be happy, and I'm sure we play him next, so that'll be somebody for you to keep a good eye on. We're looking forward to.
I tell you what, see if I don't know if Kyogo's going to be fit, probably not. But see if he was fit, I'd love Kyogo up against Frimpong defensively. Because the wee man was great going forward, but he couldn't defend. Imagine Kyogo up against him. I think he could tear him to shreds. So
again, I don't know what side. Was Jota on the right side? So that would be was Frimpong a right back, wouldn't
he?
Yeah. So that would be on the other side. So that maybe be a Badder or whoever, maybe Montgomery or somebody else like that. But it'd be interesting to see. But that's a wee bit away. So so then we've got Livingston this weekend, which I think is a wee bit up in the air, but we're hoping for a victory. So now we can all relax and look towards Ralph Malf, the man who heads up the E-Tim's diary. Hopefully everyone get a chance to watch it, to read that, usually on a daily basis, depending on how busy Ralph is at Amazon Central. But Ralph, going back last week, I'm trying to remember. I was in deepest, darkest Bishopton, which is just outside Glasgow in Renfrewshire, and I was talking to a removals man who happened to like my green T-shirt, and he said something like, how you finding the game, how you finding Ange, etc, etc. And I went, oh, very good, chatting away about Celtic, and he just threw away the remark of, yeah, and I hear that Dom McKay's leaving, to which I posted on our WhatsApp group, anyone heard these Dom McKay rumours? To which, Hector, you are normally a guy who does have his ear to the ground, you said, can't see it, maybe it's someone else in the background. And then lo and behold, a couple of hours later, Ralph, Dom, Julie, Celtic did a classic Rangers, a Friday night, late night announcement to the stock exchange or to the markets. So how shocked were you, Ralph? Had you had any inkling that there was trouble at Mill?
I'd had a couple of messages, but I ignored them because I thought there was nothing in it. I thought he'd come in, he'd been told what he'd got to do, and he was doing it. And then 24 hours later, he wasn't doing it. And he's closed down his Twitter account. His LinkedIn has removed anything. Yeah, anything. And he's gone, disappeared. Got on his horse and he's over the horizon. And of course, after that, you get all the stories and he went because, and this wasn't happening what he wanted, or this was happening that he didn't want. And then you get the press for getting this. Well, the job wasn't for him. It was too big for him. And you think, wait a minute. They headhunted this guy. He was the man for the job. And he came in. And you've got the ghost of Peter Lawwell in the background, and he was helping him bed in, and then he was away. And then the next line that came from the media and from social media was that Peter Lawwell had nothing to do with it. And ultimately, I don't think any of us are any the wiser as to what happened. There's a lot of speculation, some of which I've put out myself, but that's all it is. We've no idea what's went on.
Yeah.
Now, if you think back, Ross Desmond was touted as the next CEO. And maybe somebody has decided that he is going to be the next CEO. Simple as that.
Yeah, so over at Monty, our resident, I'm forgetting what was our title for you again, Monty? What is it? The financial
judiciary expert. But we called him a FUD for short, didn't we?
Yeah, we abbreviated it.
So no, but and again, thank you to everyone who listens to the podcast, especially regular listeners, because anyone listening on a regular basis. Well, we have covered this quite a lot, and it's sad it's came to this. But we did talk about the 100-day plan and execution over 100. Old president's first 100 days. And Monty, you kept covering what the responsibility of the board and the CEO was, and what the expectations over 100 days was. So I don't know how many days did Dom last? I think it was 70 odds.
72. If you add his shadowing cups of tea with Peter. Someone maybe counted.
No, they don't count. Probationary periods do not count. It's this when he had the executive order pen, Monty. How surprised were you? And because again, you're a top businessman in your field. Were you surprised that suddenly a guy at that level who came and he seemed to have had a good number at Scottish Rugby to actually then come in and then move on due to the and I'll repeat this Twitter joke that I made. You can't spell personal reasons without PR. Right, he left for personal reasons. How shocked were you at
that? The perception that he had been doing a very good job was out there. So shocked when it broke. But you start reading the tea leaves and you start to see how the club tried to get ahead of the story, and he was pushed before he jumped. All this nonsense, or jumped before he was pushed. The accounts will tell the tale as to what really happened, because if we're still paying him and it wasn't a mutually agreed, look, this isn't working out, let's just all part the ways, then there'll be substance to that, but you'll not know until you see this year's set of books. A lot of the stuff, actually, though, you mentioned me kind of talking about the board and the board's role, right? If you look at the shift in our signing policy, right, that has to be deliberate. And if you take the board's responsibility as being responsible for signing off on major and significant contracts, because that's what's in their description, you're wondering, did he go off on a solo run and they reined him back in and he went, well, if you're not going to let me do my job, then I'm not interested. So it's not uncommon. I've been in a couple of organisations where the CEO got whacked and no one knew until it was announced. He just didn't happen to be there one morning on a Friday normally. And no one knew where he was, and then there was an announcement. I'm quite friendly with one guy who ended up in a very litigious scenario in a very senior organisation, and it was managed completely through the media. Same thing, it raised all notice and no notion that he was ever involved in that particular company. And another guy that I know very senior. So these things happen. But the fact that he airbrushed everything out, as far as LinkedIn's concerned, he was never there. Like, the whole world knows he was there. It's a public thing. The fact that he deleted his Twitter and got completely out of Dodge, that suggests to me there's a non-disclosure in place. So whatever has happened hasn't been as mutual as it's been told. But to Ralph's point, I don't think we'll ever know really what's going on there unless Dominic himself writes a book. But it sounds to me that he wasn't given the tools to do his job or the latitude to do his job, and he's just told him to stick it up their Jackson. And if his parting gift to us was Juranovic, which seems to be the one that broke it, depending on the rumours, that he signed Juranovic against the board's instruction, then, fair play. Thank you. See you later. We move on.
Well, that doesn't fit in, because when did we sign senior professionals before, if you like? When did we sign so many?
Yeah.
It's totally against everything we've ever done for the last years.
12, 15 years. Yeah. So someone signed the checks. And sorry, Ralph, you just reminded me of something. There was a real subtle, nasty little dig in what was quite obviously the planted story, that he didn't understand the transfer market. It was in there in Alison McConnell's piece and somebody else's piece, the usual people that would be fed. So
Mr. Quick News in his
so they were given that line, and that's a deliberate line to put out there, because that's That's the holding pattern on the story. There's nothing McKay can say, even through a back channel, to challenge that. So I suspect the man's now it's clammed up. And I hope it is just something as conspirational as that, and it's not something genuinely serious and personal. It just didn't work out. Best of luck to the fella. We'll get another guy in and we'll not like him 6 months or 12 months down the line, whether it's the legal guy or whether it's a new guy. It's just the cycle.
That's very interesting, sir, because I was about to say to Hector, you and I are very much the same age and the same experience of Celtic. Are you looking forward to the day where you do not give one flying fuck who the Celtic chief executive is? Oh, no, I'm not saying we're not there at the moment, but one day when we'll be able to actually escape any headlines, it'll just be a faceless grey man in a grey suit who actually submits the accounts, and that's all that we care about. We don't actually care about who the chief executive is. You know what I mean? When did that become a thing, Fergus?
No, I know what you're saying, and I know it's the specific role, chief executive, but the board in my lifetime has always been a big thing, hasn't it? Because you get back to the old board, the Kellys and Whites, they were the bane of our biggest bane of our football supporting life for so long, right? So the board has always been a massive thing. Back to the guys' points, I'm kind of with them because it's all pretty much speculation. He said or she said and they said, and everyone's trying to understand or read between the lines. But the signing policy, which we've all discussed before, was a massive sea change in thinking and approach, which we were desperately crying out for. We were lucky if we get one experienced player a summer, and if we get more than one, it would be a loan. But to actually purchase 4 or 5 guys who are 26, 27, 30 is unheard of. So that was massive. So I don't know. I was disappointed in McKay, which I'd put on here. My disappointment was based upon his lack of communication with I didn't see anything from him. We'd been talking about this. He'd been in the role officially since the 1st of July, but unofficially for 6 weeks prior to that. Mm-hmm. Where was the communication? Where was the address to the supporters other than his first couple of days he was appointed? What was he doing? What was his strategy? What was his vision? He never shared anything. And that's not me defending why he's no longer there. The board side of it, just saying I expected more from him. So will we ever know the truth? The guys have probably nailed it. Possibly not. But is it the end of the world? No. Is it disappointing? Yeah. Because we wanted to see something different from this new guy, and we never get the chance to really see what he was made of or what he wasn't made of.
Well, that was part of it. That was part of the post departure. Suddenly, the modernisation dreams have shattered. We're back to same old Celtic. The old guys and up in the Ivory Towers no interest in taking the club forward. And if anyone who's listening here, you don't get to see Monty shaking.
2-0 Leon.
2-0 Leon. Right, we'll come to that in a sec. We're actually coming on to the Leon game in a second, but you don't get to see Monty shaking his head. And also, Hector, you've not mentioned Monty's new Mark Kermode tribute act. Look,
well, it was a sort of Mark Kermode, James Grant.
Exactly. Love that money, CSC.
Yeah. It's distinguished.
Has he got an interview? Has he got an interview coming up for a potential vacant role within a sporting organisation?
Sometimes when you don't get offered the role, you're within your rights to challenge. I just put the light on there so you can see my distinguished grey.
I think you want to go and watch that Catelyn Moran movie again.
Is that you? Have you stopped? I take you've stopped dyeing your hair.
I did. I'm just letting it naturally go grey now.
He's going for that entrepreneur, refined entrepreneur look. But yeah, right. So Hector, you just mentioned 2-0 to Leon, right? So and then Monty, you'd also alluded to the kind of chat. Sorry, I can't remember exactly what you said, but it made me suddenly think of Neil Lennon. The stories weren't coming out whereby it was the opposite. Neil Lennon, a lot of us were getting a wee bit fed up of, please Neil, just go away and just stop being a mouthpiece to the press and the media. But Ralph, tonight we were told suddenly, after the Leon bus had been attacked, Leon's big magnificent coach had been attacked and vandalised by vandals. It's been reported in the Scottish media as vandals, not Rangers fans or Union Bears associates, this vandals. But then Chris Sutton and Neil Lennon were turned away from BT Sport football duties. They were going to present the Celtic game from Ibrox and then move on to the Rangers versus Lyon game tonight because they couldn't guarantee their safety, Ralph. So is it a case of plus a change?
It's astonishing. When you look at what they've actually said, they're a media company paying a fortune to cover games that a couple of guys that work for them are not allowed access because they cannot guarantee their safety. Right?
No, security concerns.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
It's in case Sutton and Lennon attack the Rangers fans. If you're depending how you read that Rangers
Just
statement.
widen that a wee bit, given that in Scotland they're subject to different rules and policing than what they are in Europe. Widen that a wee bit. It's 2-0 to Lyon as we speak. What if Moussa Dembele had scored day 2 goals? Would they have been able to guarantee his safety?
You're into some really, really sort of, negative connotations around what's going on over there. But you know what's beautiful about it now, in my opinion? They've always been like that. There's no change in them. They're the type of crowd who will, pull the place down if they go under. And now the world is starting to get to see them in a bit more of a light. People are becoming, the likes of Michael Stewart calling it out for what it is. The fact that Sutton would go onto Twitter and say, listen, this is what happened, as opposed to BT coming up with a foot excuse. We've changed our broadcasting to London and now we've got Davy Weir or whoever else in it.
Do you remember in 1979 it was the cameramen that were on strike, and that's why we couldn't get footage of that 4-2 game. Yep. You're right enough. A lot of things now are available because there's so many channels.
People are prepared to call them out, with the exception, ironically, of call it out. I think whatever they got into.
Well, they've been quite good.
No. You're thinking
the other one.
What's the other one? No show the racism of Ed Cab. What's the other one, Hector? The Scottish one. No by mouth. Yeah, it's no by mouth, the one, Monty. But that's funny you said, because we also as well as Lennon and Sutton no getting into Ibrox tonight, we've had loads of various issues with the Union Bears recently regards the whole Twitter racism, etc. But Hector, I see you've been a few tweets a day, and it's not something we would normally talk about, but coming up this weekend, the multitude of Orange Order marches in Glasgow appears somewhere along the lines the police in Glasgow City Council have somehow decided let's just have one big Orange Day and get it out of the way. Maybe that will solve our problem. And it's just turned into a total disaster for them. And it's shocking.
But see, from my point of view, and I've been saying this for quite some time, it's Police Scotland who were Strathclyde Police. This isn't a new thing for people of a younger generation. They might think it is. It's not. I remember when we beat Rangers in Janefield Street, the bit behind the old jungle, where police on horses charged down Janefield Street, right, and could actually have killed many Celtic fans. Right, this isn't a new thing. It's the police. The police recommend to the parades panel on the council, who are multi-party. It's all the parties are on it, SNP, Labour, etc. The police recommend whether a march is potential for trouble, whether it shouldn't go ahead, whether it should be diverted. Because perhaps, let me think, what would Orange Order parades tend to do? Let's go by a Catholic church for whatever reason. I think we can guess what that is. But it turns out the police were given the steer to the people in Call It Out, who have done a lot of great things behind the scenes here, and in fact not just behind the scenes, in the front of the scenes, that they had made representation to the council with some concerns. But then Call It Out put that out there saying the council weren't quite doing their job. And if I've got that wrong, please feel free to come on, anyone from the organisation, and correct me on that one. But then it turns out that the police didn't put that to the council to redirect or raise concerns. So the police have been playing both Call It Out and the council as a fiddle. Now, this is the same police who wouldn't, when Rangers won the league, marched them from Ibrox Stadium to George Square, then allowed them to cause chaos till 10 o'clock at night before eventually using a little bit of force to put them back. This police force is consistently in the way of many things in this city getting done better. There's a recurring theme here. I don't know who it is. Is it the police commander? Is it the high Hegians? But this isn't a new thing. This has been on for 30, 40, 50 years. And until there's root and branch reform in Strathclyde Police or Police Scotland, it ain't going to change. It ain't going to change. So they're the elephant in the room. We need to get a review of them. And it's not just to do with football. For us, it's a biggie, right? For the religious anti-Catholic parades. But even things like Amir Anwar, who's one of the kind of main lawyers in the country, about police brutality, people dying in custody, it's a total whitewash. There's a recurring theme here, and it's them. And until people address that, guess what? It ain't going to change.
Yeah, it's like the police lobby. The police lobbying. The police are probably one of the most political organisations in Scotland now, and it has been for quite a while. It's constantly a budgeting issue. It's constantly a monetary issue. So as you say, Hector, they're using every leverage they possibly can, where they can, to improve their own position rather than improve society's position. And as you say there, like, call it out, we're brilliant. If anyone gets a chance, it's on Twitter. The full Jeanette Finlay put out the full communications, because they were basically the way they were trying to play it was as if call it out were being misleading, and she just put it. And the thing was, Jeanette, and totally kudos to Jeanette Finlay. She tried to protect him at some point by saying, "I'm giving you a chance here. Come out and explain yourselves." And then people started not getting annoyed with Jeanette Finlay, but basically saying, "Your name is call it out. So call it out, put out information, there." And she went, "Fair enough, I've given you a chance, I've given you a window to correct yourself. Here's all the information." As you say, Hector, the police liaison officer tried to portray it as we're giving a report to the council. But then it turned out it was a debriefing that they couldn't say who it went to or who it was with. So the council have called them out. So now you're suddenly get this big Mexican standoff. So it's going to end up again with call it out having to stand outside St Mary's and various other chapels outside the Gorbals, I think it is. And
Easterhouse, one of Benedict's Easterhouse as well.
So again, and Ralph. So coming back to you, Ralph, you've already kind of highlighted that you think it could be a major issue. I'm actually hoping it pours with rain this weekend, purely because that usually keeps them indoors. No, that's the idea. Because you can imagine it being that whole a lovely day, let us go out and cause it, because that's their kind of mentality at the moment, that confrontational mob mentality.
Yeah. There appears to be a kind of everybody hates us thing.
Yeah.
Fraser, come on, I think is he an MSP or not?
He's an MSP.
He's Desi's favourite politician, Ralph, be careful.
Right. He's never won an election
in his life. And he had to go at Michael Stewart and he said, look at the hatred and bile and what he's saying. And there's no hatred and bile. What they're mistaken for hatred and bile is constructive and justified criticism of their own actions, of what they're saying. And you can see it kind of building up. Now, I believe, I'm not 100% certain, that they're going to unveil the league flag this weekend. Right? They were going to do it against us, but we weren't allowed to the game. So there was no gloating to be done. There was no rubbing it in to be done. They're waiting until the end of September to unveil what is either their first or 55th league title, depending on how stupid you are. And it's all of it is against everybody else. Whereas we and other clubs love what they do, love what they stand for. They stand against what everything else is. 10 years ago, when they went under, I said that cancer should be killed because it will come back. And right now it's back. And not only is it back, it's much, much more severe. And it's going to end in tears. And I have a horrible feeling it's going to end in tears this
Ralph,
weekend.
the police are, in my opinion here, they're known bullies. And what I mean by that is that if they know there's a group of people who aren't going to be aggressive towards them, are relatively peaceful, guess what they'll do? They'll kettle them. They'll move them on. If they think there's a group of people who are standing up to them and are aggressive, i.e. like the Orange Mob or like the Rangers fans in George Square, the police don't want to know. They don't want to know, right? But their job's to serve and protect the community, right? And what they're doing is they're putting people, this small group of people, small percentage, you're lucky if it's 5%. You're lucky if it's 5% of the city, 2% if you're lucky, right? They're putting that 1 or 2% ahead of the 99%, right? Rather than the way round. And all they have to do is say to these people is, look, do you know what? I might not agree with your march, which I certainly don't, but according to the law, you are within your means. You're able to go and march. I might disagree with it. I might want them all banned, but it's not up to me. That's the law, right? If the police said, go and march around Bellahouston Park to your heart's content for 12 hours, for 18 hours, go and do it. But they wouldn't want to do that, because what they want to do is rub people's faces in it and walk through the streets, show people who they are, which we laugh at in many ways. So it's not about the right to march. It's about the right to march in places where they want to march, right? And people to see them who they despise. That's what it's all about, right? And our police force are a disgrace, an absolute disgrace.
So yeah, Hector, you were right. St Benedict's in Easterhouse, Westerhouse Road, and then the Blessed St John's in the Gorbals, 2 o'clock, Ballata Street.
It's actually the places where incidents have taken place. I've read the call it out stuff. Obviously, there was where the priest gets spat at, there was people assaulted, and they're wanting to go to the same places. Mm-hmm. Now, will the police be there to protect the locals? If this was happening anywhere else in the world, it wouldn't happen. And yet, it's seen as something that has to be done. It's not even the 12th of July. It's no, what on earth, what are the motives behind it?
Apparently, and this is, by the way, don't take this, but apparently this would made me laugh, as in sighing laugh, a sad laugh, the other day, whereby I seen someone posting to say Riverglen Loyal on Twitter, whatever it was, let's all look forward to the weekend when we can parade in memory of the first parade. So it's not even a parade for a battle that happened 300 years ago. Now it's a tribute to a parade 200 years ago about a battle that happened 300 odd years ago. It's like the dying of a community, and they're clutching it. As Monty's mentioned, they'll burn the house down Wareham, and this goes from Ibrox to society to everywhere, because they can see everything dying off. The union's dying off.
Talking about parades. In amongst our group here, we've got someone from a little place in the north of Ireland who may have his own experiences and must shake his head thinking, what's going on over there?
I feel sorry for you, because as this fucking thing
3-0 to Leon.
Oh, bugger.
It's poetic timing as we talk and burr our souls on that Leon stick another fucking dagger into that thing.
Sorry, still 2-0.
Oh.
As this whole mentality retracts and
you must be the guy who does the books at Ibrox.
Unfortunately, it's going to retract and die on your shores. The whole notion of Calvinism and everything was exported out of there to here, and you're going to be left with the ugly fucking rump of it. We're well in the end game here. They're just posturing for the sake of it, and yes, there's a really nasty minority within what is now a minority here, but all of that supremacy, that we are the people bullshit, it only has one fucking focal point left, and it's Ibrox. All of its big totems, Stormont, Sinn Féin are the largest party in Stormont now. Sinn Féin are the largest party on the island now, north and south. Largest party in the Dáil down south since the first time since pre-partition. This change is well underway, but you are going to be stuck with this ugly fucking rump. And there's a really dark element to how Celtic are intertwined in this, because if we'd have fucking put them under when they were liquidated and didn't cut a 5-way agreement, Scottish society would be so far on. There should be a fucking Tesco's where Ibrox Park is right now. And your society would be fucking 10 or 15 years past it. And they will disperse off into the dark corners that they live in. I feel for you. You've got at least 15 to 20 years before this fucking toxin washes out of your system. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox now.
I felt like applauding then, I really did. I felt like applauding, because I know a lot of guys and what they went through, we're about to get through.
Yep.
We're about to get all that nonsense again.
15 to 20 years of them, and then they're gone.
Oh, Hector, you and I would be happy to write off Ayrshire, wouldn't we? We'd let Ayrshire go.
West Lothian.
So surely we can get him, maybe up the Highland. I know you love the Highlands sector, but we can get him some remote.
No, we give him the borders, because the borders are pretty much Tory anyway. We give them the borders.
Exactly, and then the Tories would get sick of them because they wouldn't want to subsidise them for too long. You know what I mean? If they're not bringing enough money in. but before that was a topic worth discussing, given the fact, and again, well done to call it out, Jeanette, and everyone that call it out for our work, and especially their work this week, and actually getting it public, getting that information from behind the scenes out in the open to show, as Hector alluded to, how bad the police are as the main culprit in all this. And Glasgow City Council haven't come out with any kudos either, and especially with respect to Hector, the Parades Commission hasn't met. I know we had COVID, etc., but you still think, given
there was no parades for 18 months, was there? So
exactly, but this has been a discussion. This has been a massive discussion.
Jesus, one plague replaces another.
I know, so I get that. By the way, I don't think that's a fair criticism. They've been met since 2019. Well, hold on a minute. We've had COVID for 18 to 20 months. There's been no parades, but the point, I get the point.
No, I'm saying, but even now, it's been a massive debating point for the last wee while. This last, say, 3 months, this has been going on, and this is that coming to a head. I mean, it's been lingering. So you'd think it would all be in place in the council. They should be prepared for this by now.
But see, what a lot of folk don't get. Sorry, a lot of folk outside Glasgow who don't get. They'll look at this and they'll go, "Oh my God!" Seriously, Greater Glasgow, including the kind of general boundaries, is about 1.2 million people, right? Including just the outskirts. You're lucky if there's 5,000 in these bands, if even that, within the city of Glasgow. Either followers may double it to a big parade like the 12th, they might get 10,000, and that includes the followers, right? But you're lucky if there's 5,000 in the bands in the city. In fact, I think I'm being kind. I'm lucky if there's 1,000. So what you're saying, less than 1% of people in that Greater Glasgow 1.1 million area, less than 1%, maybe 0.1% are in the Orange Lodge. So let's put it in context. That's it. And that's what's frustrating me the most, is that little percentage have got so much power. They've got so much power because the police force won't look after the majority of us, and it's causing so much disharmony, so much disruption in our city, and that's the frustration. That's the frustration.
There's a great...
Talking about police, there's been a root and branch restructure down here in recruitment, which is largely gone unreported. Every police officer now that joins at base level has to have a degree in something called policing. I couldn't believe it until I was talking to a friend of mine that's actually teaching that at university. Instead of like a group of, well, usually it's just guys that like fighting that join the police. They're now, I know the British Army. They're now actually taking it seriously, like a professional career. And they need to do their time at university as well as time in the field. And then eventually they'll kind of graduate to be a police officer. It's changed from what used to be you join up at 18, whatever, or you join the specials first. That was the next step. It would be the special constabulary. Then you'd be a full-time police officer. Now you actually have to go and school. So I'm not quite sure how that will work out. It's very much in its infancy. But in Scotland, I guess it's just what school did you go to and do you want a job?
Oh, I know a lot of Catholics are in the police now, especially my daughter's generation. A lot of her pals. But again, it's not a vacation anymore. It's a way to a nice. It's basically people used to become teachers and all that. They see policing as one of the last early retirement, not so much cushy numbers, but well protected numbers idea, and it's very much changed. Like you get to see it on Twitter, especially people like Jim Spence. I mean, like, he constantly defends the police, but you can see the older generation still respect the police, whereas I don't think our generation has any respect for the police.
I think Jim Spence's son's a copper, though.
No, but he's a lawyer, but you can tell, like, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you can say, like, he's got respect for the police, etc. I think we probably all know police officers somewhere along the line, and they're decent enough folk. But as an organisation, I don't think any would trust them. You know what I mean? That kind of idea, and I think that's a big question for society.
The question is, if you seen a policeman getting beaten up, would you go and help him?
If he's in uniform?
Yeah, if he's in uniform and he's getting beaten up, would you go and help him?
No, not if he's in uniform.
I've been in situations over the years where I've seen both sides of it, and 9 times out of 10 I would. These days, I don't think.
But again,
in that position again, I'm not sure.
But again, this to take this up a level. We're talking about we're talking at organisational levels. Hector's alluded Police Scotland as that political body and as that kind of devious body, let's say. The ones that they're playing both sides against each other purely to increase their own worth. You know what I mean? No, rather than your individual police officers.
Are they distracting from the fact that the investigation into Charles Green has cost the country hundreds? I'm not sure. Is it hundreds of millions of pounds?
It's going to be at least 200 to 300 million at the end up.
It's a ridiculous amount for a country
and the lost tax revenue. But that's by I think there's well this. I think there's loads to come out that whole Charles Green thing. Is there's new prosecutions getting announced every month, or new court cases getting announced every month. So that's another one to come back to. So let's just we're
talk about the football again, eh?
Exactly. So let's just quickly wrap up. So where have we been? So we've been to Betis, we've been to Seville. Nice to be back in Seville, Hector, and losing, scoring 2 goals and still getting humped. So that was nice. That is the Celtic way. You know what I mean? So you're happy, Hector? Positivity moving into Livingston.
No happy. Understanding's the word. What they would
I like that. Understanding. Let me just check. So our next fixtures, who do we have? Livingston, and then Rafe Rovers in the cup. Is any Hector? You going to the cup? Did you buy a cup ticket?
No, I'll beat everyone. I went to the Hearts League Cup as well. I'm not going to that one next
week.
I was
just say I'm not going to Rafe Rovers either. So then, because I know we've not got a league game at home for a while. I believe I don't.
No, the United next weekend Sunday. No.
Is that a weekend Sunday? Right. Okay. So we've got Livingston on Sunday the 19th, and then we've got Rafe Rovers on the 23rd next Thursday, and then we have Celtic Dundee United 3 o'clock on a Sunday. So we'll wait and see where that goes. So again, hopefully we can start edging up the table. And then again, maybe tonight's defeat to Leon will be the start of Rangers' collapse. I like Rob McLean. It's funny, we've got that Rory guy in BT Sport who is the ultimate doom and gloom for Celtic games. He hardly ever says anything positive. And then I managed to hear the very start of the Rangers game with Rob McLean going, Rangers with their glorious home record of only 4 defeats in 23 home games. So he's kind of started amending it from the last time. He started just edging it out. And I just like to tell people who's listening, Monty's cats just reappeared in the corner. Even Monty got a bit of a fright there. You missed it, Hector. That happened at the very start and we all shit ourselves, to be very honest. A cat appeared from nowhere. Right, so that's that. So again, folks, thanks for listening to that. That's like meandered down the old world of Scotland police and bigotry. But hopefully
we wouldn't have it any other way, would we?
Exactly. Hopefully we won't need to come back to that subject for a long time. But it will be interesting to see if anything does happen this weekend. As I say, hopefully it doesn't, and hopefully this pisses down and they can all stay indoors. So it's just left for me to say thank you. So we'll just start by saying thank you from a man across the water. Thank you, Mark Kermode. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a million, lads.
Thank you, Monty. Thank you to Ralph Mal from down south in Stoke.
Cheers, enjoyed that.
Land of the Brexit bus. And of course, thanks for eventually joining us, Hector Bandido. Thank you, Hector.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Well, folks, thanks very much. My name is Desmond. As ever, this podcast and the rest are up on Spreaker and all the available outlets. Please like and subscribe where possible. And please check out Ralph's daily eTims diary at www.etims.net and give us a follow on Twitter at etimsnet. All right, thanks for listening. Good night.